So welcome to this. It's actually the seventh Courage and Compassion event, and some of you have been to, I think, all of them, and some of you to a few of them, and there's a bunch of new faces too. So welcome to all of you. Before I sort of introduce Kirsten to you, I would just want to say a couple of words. So my name is Monica Adolfsson, and I work as a life coach, and I'm super excited about my work with my I work with groups, I facilitate groups and do training as well. And so my groups are Daring Way and Rising Strong, and it's work based on the research by Brené Brown. Have you heard of her? Yeah? Anybody that, if you haven't heard of her, a TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, I think it's the fourth most watched TED Talk of all times. It's super good intro to her. I love her work so much. But anyway, I've had one workshop going on right now, and we have just been talking about armor. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit before we start. The armor is sort of the stuff that we put on to keep safe. The stuff, but the problem is also that it also doesn't keep us, it keeps us from being seen. And many times it keeps us from being courageous, and it pushes away vulnerability. And vulnerability is actually the birthplace of joy, faith, creativity, innovation. And then you might wonder, what are the armors that we use then? Do you wonder? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I pay her for that. Yeah. And so research shows sort of that all of us in general use three big armors, and then there are a bunch of others too, but I just want to touch on them briefly. One is perfectionism. Any perfectionists in here? Yeah. But perfectionism is really about what will other people think, which is not the same thing as striving for excellence. Striving for excellence is sort of when we look inside and our values and purpose and sort of move from there, while perfectionism is about, like, if I look perfect, if I work perfect, and if I live perfect, I will minimize shame, blame, and criticism from other people. And then that keeps us small, right? It doesn't. We're not seen, and it's sort of like a Photoshop version of ourselves that we're showing to the world when we're doing the perfectionist stuff. And it's also interesting because many people say, because a lot of the work that Brené Brown does is around shame, and people say, no, I don't do shame, but I'm a perfectionist. And so the thing is that they go hand in hand, right? So when perfectionism is driving, shame is right there sitting shotgun, and the backseat driver, fear, is blabbing around like, don't do it, you will suck at it, and blah, 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 blah. So they're totally intertwined. So perfectionism, number one of the big ones. Another one is foreboding joy. Foreboding joy, yeah. And foreboding joy is sort of when we believe that when we're like, when we're in pure joy, that we're actually inviting disaster. So we start dress rehearsing disaster. I don't know, one big for me, for example, is I know at night, those nights when my kids actually go to bed before me, which is not so much, they don't do that so often anymore, but when I go in and I can feel this, like, that they're there totally innocent, sleeping, right? Not saying anything, and I can get this immense love watching them, and then in the next second, some disastrous thing. I think about, what if this happens to them? So that is sort of the foreboding joy, and the antidote to that is really gratitude. So the gratitude practices and so on. So one armor, perfectionism, foreboding joy, and then numbing. And we are the most medicated, addicted, in-depth cohort in American history, the adults today, and we numb ourselves like crazy with a lot of different stuff, with internet, Facebook, food, gossip, busyness, a lot of things. And so those three are the big ones that actually keeps us from being seen and keep us from those things that we really want, meaning We want to be who we are, really, and we want to show up with all ourselves and those deep, yummy connections. The armor is sort of keeping us away from that. So stuff like that we do in our workshops. Super interesting work we do. It's not only heavy, we make it fun too. But why I wanted to talk about that is because we are now going to I'm going to introduce you now. And we're going to talk a little bit about this too. So Kirsten and I, we go, is it like 5 years back? Maybe?
2012.
2012?
Yeah.
6 years?
Yeah.
Wow, holy smoke. We did coaching school together. So she's a fellow life coach. She is also a TEDx speaker, so speaking at the speaker circuit. And I'm so happy that she's here. We are her first stop on her trip around America, right? Yeah. And she flew in from Bali just to be with us. I think that's super amazing. Yeah. Kirsten is a digital nomad. I didn't even know what that was before she is working from her computer, managing her business from her computer, or from all over the world. So welcome.
Thank you.
So, where to start?
It's wonderful to be here. It really is. I already can feel this is a really cool crowd. I feel very at peace with you guys. So I don't know, I feel like you've attracted a wonderful group of spiritual warriors who have been doing the work, and yeah, I'm excited to be here.
We are too. Okay, so why? So we started talking about this event. I think it was in January or something like that. And why I wanted to have you here, because I think that since we parted ways 6 years ago, you've done so much cool stuff. And I've been following you on Facebook, but I wanted us, before we talk about what you're doing right now, to talk a little bit about your history, about your story, about maybe even the armor, how you use that, and the floor is yours.
I definitely relate. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me here. I lived a very armored life, and I think we put our armor on when we're young. I put my armor on when I was young, so things happened or didn't happen in my childhood, and I started armoring up. Definitely what I found in my journey was shame was underneath the armor. And when I had all that armor, I definitely was a perfectionist. There's hope for current perfectionists and recovery from perfectionism. There definitely is. And the path for me has been a path of self-love and learning to love myself. Then I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to show you how great I am. I can just be me, and you can be you then as well. And perfect is actually authenticity today for me. But back when I was a perfectionist, my graduate degree is in statistics. I'm good at math, right? It takes one to be good at math in order to do high-level math like that. But the reason why I loved math with my mind, right, is because I could get it right, and I can get it right the fastest. And you can't judge me. I can be perfect every time. Yeah. And it's not because I was the smartest. To be clear, it's not because I was the smartest. It's because I needed to be number one. So I worked my butt off around the clock. I stayed up really late. I woke up really early. I foreboded joy. And I threw everything into getting 100% on every test, the fastest. Because I needed to show you that I was good enough. I didn't know that. But that was my life for a long time. And so when I lived with that armor, what it looked like is, if I get everything right on the outside, the right job, the right relationship, the right clothes, the right car, the right this, the right that, sweat in the right $200 yoga clothes, whatever, right? Then I will be okay. But I didn't show up as myself in relationships, and I was actually more concerned with wanting to be loved than actually do I love the person that I want to be loved by, right? Because I needed that external validation, and so that was a very difficult life.
Hustling.
And there was a lot of numbing. Actually, part of my story is I drank my way into sobriety. So I've been sober since September 2009. So 8.5 years sober. I think that if my life can be summed up, just like a summary of which goes along with exactly what you're saying, yanged into a yin. Like I drank my way into sobriety. Like I worked my way into disability. I broke my body on a laptop. So I go all in until I get removed. But it was because I was running from something, not because I love what you said. It wasn't because I wanted to be excellent. That was part of it. But I needed to prove my worthiness. I needed to get your love. And what I couldn't see is that when I did get your love, or what felt like love, it actually wasn't getting love because it wasn't really me. I was still putting, the armor allowed me to not ever really be rejected because you never really knew me. I also didn't really know myself, and I wasn't available to know you. And you wouldn't get to know about my family. You wouldn't get to know about all certain areas of my life. And you would get to know, it was like a play, right? I'm going to orchestrate what you get to know about me because I needed to have that facade. And that came crashing down when I got sober. And it got ugly first, to be clear. I went to rehab. Like, this wasn't like I crashed my car into a little foam pole, 2 miles an hour. I was like, oh, I should give up alcohol. I was doing anything to not have to feel my feelings because there was so much shame inside. And now I've learned that to be called like toxic shame. Like John Bradshaw has a really good book about that. Healing the shame that binds you. And so until I met my shame, I needed to be perfect. I needed to numb out, and there was no joy. There was the ego gratification if I got 100% or I'm the best at work or whatever it was that I was striving towards. But underneath that, it was really empty. And that comes with a lot of anxiety disorders. And the way that I think of anxiety disorders now, I actually don't even think it was anxiety disorders, even though that's what I was diagnosed with. Just about every anxiety disorder. I had fear of public speaking. I changed majors in college to avoid public speaking. So the fact that I sit in front of you and all I feel is peace is like a miracle of the human mind. So if anybody has anxiety, like guys, we can rewire our brain. I'm just saying. I didn't drive on the freeway for 3.5 years. Today's my first day on a 3-month-long solo road trip across the states. I'm driving to the East Coast, 3,000 miles in the next 3 weeks. Like I didn't drive at all. I didn't speak at all. Like we can totally come through that. We can recover. And so the first thing for me, like anxiety, the way that I look at it now, is actually, if I'm really gonna be honest, it was actually PTSD. But I was never diagnosed with that because I never talked about what happened in my childhood. So how am I going to be diagnosed with PTSD if I never talk about the original trauma? I just say, I'm freaked out. I had a panic attack on the freeway. I'm freaked out. Here's some meds. Okay, cool. But really what happened is I had a less than loving childhood that included sexual abuse at a young age. And I never talked about it, never told anybody. And so I did what I could to try to protect myself. I shut myself off from the world. And then the process of healing is opening back up to that. And the way that and this is just my belief, right? Like I'm not a doctor, but the anxiety was really like a warning light on the dashboard of my car saying, check under the hood. Honey, it's under the hood. And so more was revealed in recovery and sobriety, and around 5 years sober, the hood popped open. I'm like, oh, whoa, that's why I drank. That's why I couldn't let you know me. Because there's this, like, what does Renee call it, the gremlin or whatever, it was toxic levels of shame buried down low. And I look at it almost like an analogy, like it was on my heart. My heart was covered. There was like deep toxic shame all over my heart, like tar. And on top of that was a layer of rage. And then on top of that, sadness, then rage, then the anxiety. So it wasn't really an anxiety disorder. It was a, hey, honey, something's not right in your heart. You've been wronged and you never looked at it. You decided the world wasn't a safe place, and you had to hide. Does anybody relate to any of that? So of course I don't want to feel my feelings. I just need to keep it all down. As soon as I drank alcohol, I was like, comfortable in my skin. But now, I don't need alcohol. I don't need anxiety meds. I don't have an anxiety disorder. I don't not do things because it scares me.
Cool. If you go back, sort of, you already talked a little bit about the armor, but it's also covering up being vulnerable. What does that mean to you then? What did it mean to you to be vulnerable? Were you vulnerable?
I didn't show that part of myself. Yeah. I showed the straight A student who, what I went to was trying Miss Perfect. As some people are the rebel, the clown, whatever. I was Miss Perfect. If I'm perfect, then I'll get loved. And so there wasn't really vulnerability that I showed or even really allowed myself. I basically, when I was 16 is when I started drinking, and I very actively was like, I'm shoving all that down in the closet. Like, thank God I feel like I'm a different person. And I just like was like, I'm gonna outrun this, whatever this is down here. And it wasn't, and that also looked like it was hard to take criticism, you know, which now I know is feedback. Sometimes the messenger it has an interesting attitude, you know, tone or personality, but there's usually a message in there. There's usually something I can learn from feedback, and I used to not be able to take feedback at all because that's a vulnerable state to receive feedback from somebody.
Sure.
That's not just you're amazing. That's area for growth. So I didn't really start getting vulnerable. And the first vulnerable thing I ever said was I need help. You know, September 29th, 2009, when I said I need help, and then I stopped drinking, or alcohol was removed from my life. And then it was, when you're not numbed out, well, and I wasn't numbed out then I was in the midst of my vulnerability. You know, and then in rehab, they took away my benzos, so now I'm off the anxiety meds. So now I'm like without my armor in the world, without any, and it's just, it was intense. It was an intense ride. It was like a 2-year-long anxiety attack, getting sober. Because I had been so numbed out, that was what my experience was. But because I was so desperate to feel comfortable in my skin, there was a huge fire under my butt. And so my motto became, I'm just gonna say it, it's a bad word, fuck fear. Because I was literally afraid of everything. At the end, I was agoraphobic. I was afraid to leave the house. I was afraid of driving on the freeway. My life was really, really small. And so at that point, I was like, I only can go up. And so something happened where I hit with it was like a trampoline. I hit it, and then I went the other way. And no matter what it was, I was going to do it. You know. And then the weirdest thing happened when I was about a year sober. I realized I'm a speaker. I'm like, wait, I vowed after the 4th grade when I got up and blanked out and during a Shel Silverstein poem, you know, Cynthia Stout would not take the garbage out, blank, and I'm like, never again, never again. Everyone stared at me and I was like, oh God. I was like, never again am I going to do that. And I did change majors in college to avoid public speaking. So then imagine this, at a year sober, I realized that I'm a speaker because, you know, we have the intuition, right? There's a lot of like, you know, we're intuitive. Like, we're souls inside bodies. That's what's really going on. There's an energy that's inside of us. Whatever your beliefs are, there's an energy that's inside of us that was with us when we were 5, that's also with us now. That's truly what we are. Our bodies change. This is not my 5-year-old body, right? But I'm inside the body. And so, yeah, I realized because I was gently forced into speak it at something, and something happened inside me where I knew that it was my calling. I was like, oh my God, is that how it is? Is it the thing you're most afraid of is what you're supposed to do? You know, I'm like, what is this joke? So I was like, well, I better buckle up and figure this out because I don't let fear stop me anymore. So I did 2 years of Toastmasters. And then I started meditating on what's my purpose. And then I realized that I was a coach through meditation. So then I met you in the coaching program. So it was very much a numbing out and then unnumbing, thawing out. And meditation really helped me understand what to do. And I used to meditate because I was really anxious and wanted to be able to calm down. And now I meditate because it's like I drop in pretty quickly after these years, right? And it's like I get access to wisdom. And it's not always super profound, right? But like sometimes it's just like my to-do list just comes really clear in my head, or I have no thoughts. Like in the beginning when we started, I was looking at all of you and I just had no thoughts. I was like, oh, I feel peace. And so now I do it for what it gives me, not because I want to get out of what I don't want, like anxiety. I don't know if I even just answered your question or not.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So, I mean, vulnerability is still scary though, isn't it?
Okay, so I did a talk 2 months ago, guys. And the name of it's a TED Talk, and the name of the talk is The Secret That Almost Killed Me. And the talk is basically I shared everything from that stage that I was never ever going to tell anybody. And I didn't do it because I wanted just to be vulnerable for vulnerability's sake. I don't think, like Brene Brown says, vulnerability without boundaries isn't vulnerability. Like, I didn't just want to, like, open the kimono, hey guys, I'm free. That's not what this was. I got struck with a calling, and I knew I needed to go do this talk. So I was living in Bali for 3 years, and I left Bali, and I came to America to do this talk. I didn't know how it was going to work or how it was going to work out. I just kept meditating and following the guidance. And all the doors opened. I just kept doors opening. All the Yodas kept appearing, the mentors, right? And it just led me directly onto that stage. And it just all lined up, and that's what it was. And I'm willing... What is the most important thing to me now is to completely trust the energy inside me, the wisdom that's inside me. I don't know how I would possibly live and reconcile that with myself if I knew what I was supposed to do on like a more of a soul wisdom kind of level, and I didn't do it. what other way is there to live when you know what your mission is? I wouldn't be able to, like, I'm too sober, I'm too awake to, like, that calling thing? I'm busy, call waiting. Nope. Like, is that God? Is that you calling? Sorry, I'm watching Netflix.
Not taking your call.
No, I'm just going to stay with this coconut on the island. No, it was so clear that I needed to go do this thing. So, yeah, I was terrified. But I believe our calling has to do whatever is going to require us to evolve the most. Like, from a soul perspective, and I hope it's okay that I'm using these words, right? But from a soul perspective, the point of the calling is to grow us into a fully empowered, healed human being as much as we can. And so in order to do this, to get on a stage and talk about being sexually abused in childhood, that was the secret. And then there was other secrets that I was never going to share that I also share. But in order to grow into the woman that could do that, and you better believe my prayer every day was, please help me grow into the woman who could do that talk. Because I wasn't until the day I got on stage. And I hit my knees before I went out, and I'm like, I need your help, please, like, I don't know, like, for me it's spirituality. I'm not religious, but there's an energy inside me that is calling me to do this. So I just was like, let's do this. And I went out there. And what was amazing about that journey was I actually wasn't scared at all on stage. I blanked out. I completely blanked out, which I thought was my biggest fear at that point, was, oh my God, what if I get up on this big stage and I blank out completely? And I'm standing there, and like literally it was like this. And this narrative in my head. Oh, you just said the wrong line. Like, you jumped from like 20 to 30. How are you gonna figure this out? And I'm like, this is your biggest fear. Why God, it's Ted. It's happening. And you don't feel scared. Huh, cool. There's no fear. I'm just like walking your computer. I'm like, oh, you better figure something out, girl. You want to pick the notes out of your pocket, or what are you going to do? I'm like, And I walk again. I'm like, hey, what's the next line? Like, I'm praying. And then I just started up, right? So that's like literally what happened. But the amazing thing was I felt no fear when it was happening. So yes, I was being vulnerable, but there wasn't, it wasn't scary. It was, my adrenaline was going, but in that moment I was at peace. And the crazy thing is, and I believe that when it comes to vulnerability and sharing ourselves with other people, there is some magic there. Like, we're in this together. We come together and we evolve together. And afterwards, I met two people, came backstage and like ran up to me and hugged me and said, and so my talk is called the Secret That Almost Killed Me. And the word that ran through my talk was silence. And they came up to me and said, when you gave us that really long silence, that was the most powerful part of your talk. And they were like crying. I was like, okay, namaste. That wasn't me. I was just like, okay. I just asked for like, let's do this one. Let's do good here. I'm like, okay, it was powerful. So I don't know. I think that I get my courage from knowing that I'm being guided over and over and over again, and that there is something else. There is, and whether it's the energy, whatever's in the tree and in us, whether you call it God or spirit or whatever it is, I am over and over again surrendering to whatever that mysterious force called life is, and it keeps just blowing my mind. The mystery just keeps blowing my mind. Like, I think I'm effing up, and it's someone else is having an epiphany, or something's coming through all of us.
And I also want to say, for you that haven't been here before, that you will be, there will be time for you to ask her questions. So if you have any, just sit with them and we'll take that afterwards. Okay, so I am super excited. Well, when I heard that you were going to go to Bali, I'm like, that sounded so good. Can you tell us, like, how is life, like, what is it to be a digital nomad? And, how do you manage your business from all over the world?
Yes, the only challenging thing is, I have clients all over the world, so it's time zones. So when I just came from Bali last week back to California, I just need the time zones when I have a client in Europe, Australia, and I'm like, how do I get the time zones right? And so we're all coordinated. But I mean, that's really it's like anything you ever do. The first time you do it, it's the fear before you actually do it is the scariest part of it. And then you do it once, then you do it twice, then you do it 3 times and you're good, right? And then other people, when you've never done it and you're in that fear, you get all these friends who tell you why it's scary, right? They're kind of reflecting what you're feeling. So are you attracting that because you actually feel that, or what is it? Is it a mirror? So when I first went to Bali, I was really scared to go. And
how did you decide to go?
So I woke up one day disabled. Like, I couldn't use my hand at all. It was the oddest thing. I was 2.5 years sober. This is right before I did coaching with you, and it's part of like I got removed from one career and like put in my calling, basically. Perspective, I was removed from a career and put into another one. Basically, I woke up and couldn't use my hand. And so when I ended up 2 years after that having surgery on my wrist and my elbow, I had 6 weeks between doctor's appointments. And so I said, all right, and I was feeling like a victim. I can't do yoga, which I was doing every day at the time. I can't cook. I can't work. I loved working. I was still working to show how great I am. My achievements are who I am. So now I feel like I'm not worthy because I'm not doing anything. I didn't know how to be. I was in coaching school. They're like talking about being and doing and the balance of being and doing. And I was like, y'all are going to laugh, but like someone needs to tell me what's the value in being. And I got like half the faces looked at me horrified. I'm like, yeah, I get it, it's weird, but I really need to know the value in not doing anything. Someone tell me. And so I was like, all right, well, if I can't, then it occurred to me that I was in the victim mind frame, that life was happening to me, which is not true, right? Life isn't happening to any of us. We can feel like it, but when I know that I feel like life is happening to me, that's the time that I got to wake up and think, what is happening for me? What is this an opportunity for? Doors are being shut, right? I'm in pain and all this stuff, but what's the new opportunity here? And I was like, well, if I don't have to work out, cook, where can I go not do all that stuff? And I was like, I'm going to an island. And I happen to have enough miles to get there, and it's cheap enough there that I can afford to eat out every meal. I mean, it's not very expensive. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go. And I know that's not an opportunity that everybody has, but I did have the miles, and I went. And when I was there, it's just one of those things. It was the most profound thing that I've ever known in my life is when I left Bali to come and talk about what I talked about. And that was the biggest knowing I've ever had. This I have to do this. And then the second biggest one was when I moved to Bali. It was really bizarre. Remember, guys, I was a statistician. I analyzed data for startups. I worked at eBay for a while doing fraud. I was the fraud team. I was the only fraud team because I'm really good with numbers, right? Like big data was my thing. Because you can't judge me. I'm just going to catch the criminals and we're good. Give me the money, I'll get you the criminals, and there's no judgment. But so I go to Bali, and I'm next thing I know, I'm looking at a tree, and my heart cracks open, and I'm hit with this profound joy. And then a couple of seconds later, I get hit with deep grief, and I start crying. 5 minutes to an hour, and it happened every day. I'm like, I'm the math person. I'm not a tree hugger. Like, what is this? What's going on with the trees? And so I just knew. Within a week, I just knew the trees had something for me. I just knew. It didn't make any sense to me, but it's like I knew I needed to go there. And then another week, I got my head to agree to actually come home, get rid of everything, and move there. So it wasn't like I decided one day I want to travel the world. It was a calling, and there was a whole journey that went along with that. And that was actually the invitation. So we're all on a hero's journey, right? Everyone's on a hero's journey, or you're at some part of it, and that was my call to adventure. And the adventure was to crack the barriers that were over my heart, the shielding. Because at that point now, and the reason and the conclusion, also I wrote a book about it, but the conclusion, the ending is I had never been harmed by trees. I couldn't feel, and I had been attacked by dogs. So with animals, I still had hesitation. With humans, I had hesitation because I'd been pretty severely traumatized. But nature had never harmed me, so it was the first time in my life where I felt nature, God, love, where I felt me. I felt what a heart feels like when a heart is open. And so at first it was love, and then it was grief, because it was everything that was blocking me from my natural loving state. Does that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the trees called me. Says the statistician. I was like, this is an outlier, and I was like, if I don't do this, if I don't find out what this journey is, I'm going to be like later on in life, like it's going to be my one regret, because my whole like it's like my soul was like having an earthquake, soul quake. Like you have to go. I'm like, what is this tree? Really? Parents are like, what? No, I'm moving to Indonesia for the trees. But yeah, it was a major heart healing.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've had a couple of different callings. You're following, or is it one calling, or what is it really?
And that was the same one. So that was the call to adventure, right?
Yeah.
And to move me to Bali. And then I went on this. It cracked me open. It cracked me open to my vulnerability. It brought me to self-love. It brought me to my knees. It popped the hood open, and it brought me to the shame and the original pain from my childhood, and that we all have, right? But some more than others. And so And then at the very end, it's like in the hero's journey. The end is where the hero gets the Holy Grail and goes back to the community. It goes from the new world, old world to the new world, and then back to the new world, right? And I'm not saying that I'm a hero, but I'm saying that this is the structure of the story. We're all on this. And maybe the hero's journey is opening a bakery or having a child or adopting a dog or whatever it is. Like, we all have an experience where our heart gets to return to, like, we start out loving, and then we block ourselves, and then we come back to love. Like, that's how I look at the hero's journey. So my hero's journey, then there was you need to come back and you need to tell the people what you learned. And really the message of my whole journey, it had nothing to do with me. It never does. It's never personal, right? And so what it actually was, and what my TED Talk was about, was connecting the dots between childhood sexual abuse, the anxiety disorders, the addiction, and then what it looks like for other people. It could look like eating disorders, suicide attempts, depression, all sorts of stuff. And I don't think that as a culture, this is before Me Too, so we don't really talk about the underlying trauma, and then we have stigmas against the mental health challenges that come from it, so we silently suffer. And so I'm on team Let's Not Silently Suffer Anymore, which is why I have the courage to tell you guys anything that I've been through, because I don't take it personally anymore. I'm a human, and I acted very normal given the circumstances that I was in. It's not personal, and so I pray that I get the courage. And now I think nothing's off the table for me, because I was never going to talk about that until I was like called to talk about it, which is great, because now I've evolved past that where I'm okay sharing that and I don't take it personally. But so whatever you've been through, it's not. We've all been through stuff, right? And so the biggest thing for me is to break the silence, whatever we're silent about with somebody, whether it's a therapist or whatever. If we've cheated on somebody that we love, if we've stolen something, if we were abused, if we abused somebody. With the first person that I told about, I need to come to America and talk about this, and I'm freaking out, and I was crying. And I meditated, and it was like, call her, and I called her, and she started crying, and she's like, I did that to a little kid. I was about 5 years older than her. And even today, as a 40-year-old woman, I have shame around it still. It's like all hearts got to get free, If you're locked up the people who are a danger to the community, but every heart deserves to get free from shame. That's what I believe.
So the calling then, do you feel then, so now you're going to go to around America?
Yeah.
And tell us, what are you going to do?
Well, it is, I've always wanted to drive across America. Anybody else want to do an American road trip?
Yeah.
I've never done one.
Well, do you have a bus?
I have it.
We'll come with you.
Oh. I'll be doing Facebook Lives from around, so I added some of you guys as friends on Facebook, because I saw on Facebook who was invited, and I added the people who I saw on Facebook. But you can all add me on Facebook. I'd love to follow your journeys. We're all doing whatever we're doing in our lives, and especially if we're committed to being courageous, right? Doing things. This is the weirdest thing, to have a buzzing in your body dictate your happiness, right? So the buzzing I'm talking about is fear. There's a sensation in our body that we don't want to feel. So instead of letting that buzzing happening in our body, we'll stay put. But if we're willing to feel that buzz in our body, we can have a huge life. We can learn how to get back on the road. We can learn how to speak in front of groups. We can learn how to do all these things that we feel called to do, or a little excitement to do, right? If we're willing to feel that fear. And really, it doesn't last that long, and all you do is drop your attention out of your thoughts and into your body, and it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, so I'm driving around. This time, actually, when I came back last time from Bali, it was specifically to do that talk. I didn't know how it was going to work, but all the doors just kept. It was so wild. Like, I found a mentor. I had never met a TEDx speaker coach in my life, and I met 3 in 2 weeks. I was like, I felt like I was in a mystery bubble, like the mystery mobile, and these people, and I'd even pray and say something, and then it would appear, and I'm like, this is too wild. And I was like, this guy's amazing, but I think I need a female speaker coach and a survivor. Someone who gets it, because he'd be great for another talk. This isn't a cheerleader talk, and I'm already cheerleader energy. I need to go a different direction with this talk. So it needs to be a survivor woman. 2 days later, I'm at a holiday Christmas party for everyone there is 70 and above. This woman beelines to me. We became friends. I had breakfast or lunch with her 2 days later. Not only is she a survivor, she's a TEDx speaker coach, and she was partners with the other guy. They did TEDx San Diego together. I'm like, I just said, no, I want a woman survivor. And then 2 days later, had a holiday party with Santa. I meet her. Like all of it was unreal. But that's what I love about being surrendering to, like, we all have the intuition, the nudges, the feelings. For me, I get wild chills. I'll have a thought, feel nothing, have another thought, feel the chills. I'm like, okay, cool. And I keep doing that stuff. And it's like, it leads me on this path. And I'm like, ooh, this path is really cool. And then when the path led to the river of you need to go talk about childhood sexual abuse, I was like, whoa, this is where you've been leading me? I've been going this direction for years, and now this is what we do? Whoa, no, wrong woman. But that's my choice in how I live, is by honoring the energy inside me, which is a very, very different way of being from somebody who did anything not to feel, right? And I've never regretted listening to my gut. I've only regretted not listening to my gut. Bad things happen when I ignored my gut. So now it's like all gut. And I bring my mind and my heart along, right? And if it's not just heart, it broke my heart to leave Bali. I left a relationship in an island that I love. But my soul was like, you need to go do this thing. And I'm like, that's my commitment. I'm also not married and I don't have children, so this isn't the life for everybody. But I think part of my mission is to help wake people up to the guru, which is what you hear inside you. What you know inside is true, it's real. And tuning more into that. Like, if we quiet down, we hear it, we feel it, whatever. It's in us. So I don't even really resonate with a lot of teachers anymore. I just want to meditate and I want to go to the source, right? It's in us. so I just, I meditate now every day because I can't imagine not doing it. Just like I wouldn't leave the house without brushing my teeth, right? I wouldn't leave the house without meditating. I need to get in touch with the wisdom,
So I love that, the whole being your own guru. I think many times I think that I feel for myself also. I looked to so many different people for the truth. And ultimately, I believe that my work, even as a mental health professional, is to lead people to their own gurus themselves.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
More or less. Yeah. Is that what you do then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I am a coach. I coach people around there, a life coach, business coach. Most of the people that come to me, they either already secretly want to start some sort of side hustle or business, or they don't know it yet, but they know it like 2 or 3 sessions in. It just blows me away, but this is on repeat. This is who it is. And so they'll ask me a question like, what do you think of this copy? Or I need to go sit down and I need to do it, or I need to think about all this mental stuff, or ask all these opinions of other people, including you. And I'm like, this is my job. Close your eyes, hand on your heart, 3 breaths. Okay, what is it called? Boom. There you go. It's called that. Cool, go with it. Like, I can't do that. That's it. So yeah, I guide people back to themselves. I mean, it's more than that, right? But I basically guide people back to themselves. And, be careful for anybody who tells you. No wonder why we're so overwhelmed and doubtful and confused, because everyone has an opinion and we're not listening to the truth. Like, we're all connected. Like, and that's the empowerment life. I think to be an empowered person is to trust what's inside of you, not to ask somebody always. I mean, so what I did on the TEDx talk, which I hired a speaker coach, and then the woman, right? And then the partner that she used to run TEDx San Diego with, he actually, of course, I met him randomly too, right? And of course, randomly, right after I met him, he was doing a 6-week course on how to give a TED Talk at UCSD. So, I mean, everything was it was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I took his course, so I got and then I have a mentor myself, like a coach for my business. So I had all these mentors, people that I paid, and people who were experts in this area. And then the last minute, I was like, nah, this isn't anybody else. I mean, she was amazing, but it was like word for word rewriting the talk I was going to give. And I'm like, nah, that's perfectionism. And I got this really cute dress. I was going to look so pretty with these high heels and this lace dress on. And then at the last minute, I'm like, it's not me. It's not me. I need to be me. And so I scratched it all. I rewrote my talk on Tuesday. The talk was on Saturday. I got a tennis shoe. I wore these jeans, actually. I went to the mall and had a 20-year-old pick them out, and 20-year-old pick out some shoes. I got these Vans because it was out of college, and I was like, I want to look like a college. I want to wear what they wear. I want them to think me too when I walk out, and I want to be myself. And I rewrote the talk, and I didn't tell anybody the talk. And then I went on stage and I gave the talk. So I took the wisdom from I took every Yoda. I took all of their wisdom, and then I just went inside, and then I used my personality with it, because they didn't get the call. I didn't need to do a talk through their words. I was called to do this. So it's my mission. So I need to take the wisdom, and then it's the wisdom. And this is like Gary Zukav talks about this, aligning your soul with your personality. I needed to align my personality with this message. And so I'm like like when I talk, usually it's like, whoa, I'm all over the place. Like I'm like, and I use the stage and I'm really animated. So I was like, well, how am I going to talk about such a untalked about thing with my energy? And nobody could teach me how to do that. That was my evolution. And that came from meditation. So I think it's really wise to get counsel from other people and then ultimately to make the decision for ourselves. And even if it's like a husband or a wife, right? We ultimately, to live an empowered life, it's honoring the wisdom inside us.
Just to go back to your trip. So what is the purpose of this trip then?
Oh, it's to have fun. I'm going to Graceland. And we'll see what happens on the way. I just always wanted to do a trip. No, it's just for fun.
Okay.
It's to work, and I'll work. I work like my business is an extension of my personality. It's it's like a personal brand thing. So this weekend I'm going to be driving to Vegas tomorrow, and then only because I'm going to Southern Utah and doing the national parks. I've always wanted to do the national parks. So I'm going to go to Zion and around there, and then from there I'm going to Santa Fe for a week. I've never been. I've always wanted to go. From there, it's a long drive, staying in Oklahoma City overnight, going to meet my dad in Memphis. We're going to Graceland. People asked that Paul Simon song as a kid. And I listened to it the other day, and there's a line that goes, for reasons I cannot explain, I'm going to Graceland. I'm like, that's it. I don't know Elvis, but I'm sure as F going to blast him on my Spotify while I drive up to Memphis. I pick my dad up at the airport. We're going to Graceland. He's already picked out the barbecue spot we're going to. Then we're going to Nashville, dropping him off, and then I'm moving on, meeting another friend near Ohio. It's because I've always wanted to, and I really believe that it doesn't feel convenient right now. I really wanted to stay in Bali or maybe even get a more permanent home. Actually, that doesn't really feel exciting to me. But since I was 22 and I'm 41, since I was 22, I wanted to do this extended road trip across the U.S. It's not an unusual dream. But if not now, when? When is it going to be the right time? And not everybody that I was friends with when I was 22 is still alive. When am I going to do the things I always wanted to do? And so that is what I always say to my clients. They're like, oh, okay, when? Now? Hang up the phone, do it, call me back. They say, one day I want to do a Facebook Live. I'm like, oh, call me back in 5 minutes. I'll be watching you. What? Okay, no. Wait, I don't know. What's it about? I don't know. What's your important message? This. Cool. I'll watch you. I'll do a little heart palms. Go do it. So it's always now, right? It's always now. And so it's part of it is it's waking up to that. This is it. This is life. The delusion that I'm going to do something in the future. It's that's actually called fear. The planning is procrastination. Planning equals procrastination. Yes, plan a little. But sometimes we over-plan things and we never actually do them. It's perfectionism, planning, procrastinating. And one day this is all going to be perfect. No, it's not. No. It's not now. And if you see the person and you want to talk to them, go talk to them. I'll do it next time. This is it, right? I forget that. I think we all forget that it's not a dress rehearsal, that we don't get this day again. And that we don't get this opportunity. This is a unique opportunity that we're together here. And if there's something on your heart that you've always wanted to do, find a way. Find a way.
So not all of us will be digital nomads, even if we...
Right.
But, so what advice, or what, you have sort of already talked about it, but in our day-to-day lives, if we want to be just a little bit more brave, do a little bit more, what would you say to that?
Well, first meditate, right? Because if it's not, it's like a soul-aligned thing, right? If it's not in alignment with who you really are, then there's no point in doing it. It's not brave if if I go tell a stranger off, is that really brave? Is that really, so it's, if you don't feel a desire to speak publicly, then it's not so much brave to go and try to do that, to get outside your comfort zone in that way. So I think, first of all, meditate, spend quiet time. Or if you don't like to meditate, go put a blanket under a tree and just look at a tree for 20 minutes. Get in nature, go for a walk without your phone, without anybody else. So get rid of all the mind stuff and to find out, get in touch with what's inside of you. And then honor that. If you hear, leave your boyfriend, leave the country, and go talk about everything you were never going to talk about, that's when we get brave. Because I wouldn't have done it if I didn't hear it, right? So I can't say what it is to be brave with, but to honor what's inside of you. So if you've always felt like, well, I've been through something. I want to help people with this one thing, but I couldn't do it. I don't know how to do that. Trust trust the little callings too. Like sometimes I'll be somewhere and I'll see someone and I'll think to talk to them about something. And next thing I know, we have everything in common. Or like yesterday, this guy, I was doing a Facebook Live at a cafe and then he overheard me and then he asked me a question. And next thing I know, he's recently out of jail, he's sober, and he's trying to get his life, he's trying to figure out his life and his new career. And I'm like, I happen to be a coach for this and I'm getting my new tires across the street. I got 20 minutes, free session, so it's just listening. But it was a look, I saw something about him was go sit by him. So I think it's like that. I think it's when you hear those little soul nudges, those little pulls at your heart, when you're in your day-to-day life, it's simple. It doesn't mean moving across the world. By the way, part of me moving across the world was I didn't leave the house, guys. I was agoraphobic. I didn't drive. And then it's for me, the growth, it's now I travel as a lifestyle. So it's for me, that's me. That's what I do. But you're going to feel it in your life, right? The pull to do something. To adopt a kitten when you see it in the box, or whatever it might be, to trust those things that, oh no, I can't do that. No, you can. In fact, no one else is feeling that right now. It's for you. The little tap, it's for you. So to trust what you feel inside yourself and to take action on inspiration. Because if you don't take action on the inspiration, the ideas just go away, right? So inspired action. There's the 5-second rule, right? So if you feel oh, I should really call my mom right now. Or I should call my dad and tell him I love him. Or I should write that friend. Or I should, or what, this barista was amazing. I should let them know. Or whatever it is, you guys know what I mean, right? Those little things that you hear but you don't really do because they'll do those things. Those things. The wisdom wants to let it bloom.
But I think that's sometimes the hard part though, right?
Courage isn't easy. But you know what? Living in fear isn't easy either. Let's be honest, guys. It's not easy to be depressed, medicated, and numbed out and perfect. That's not easy either. Soul sucked. It's not easy.
Yeah, but I think that there's so many shoulds though, right? You're talking about our own shoulds, but then there's all these other shoulds, societal shoulds and family shoulds and all these sort of things. And I think that is where it becomes a little bit tricky to really feel what is mine? What is my want and need and all that stuff?
And it can be subtle. And here's a really silly example, but I think it might be relatable in your own life. So I was going to originally go from Utah, which I really wanted to go to, up to Mount Rushmore, then over to get to the East Coast. Because I thought I should do that. On a USA road trip, you do go to Mount Rushmore, right? And so I should do that. Meanwhile, I really actually want to go to Nashville. I really actually want to go to Santa Fe. And then I was like, wait, why did I map up here? What am I going to do? A selfie in front of Mount Rushmore, put it on Facebook, have a moment of glory, maybe 60 likes, and then move on? And drive, how many days for that? What's really going to happen with that? Do I really care about this? Or can I catch it on the flip side if it fits in? Do I really want to go to Mount Rushmore? No, I actually want to go to Nashville. I've always wanted to go to Nashville. Why don't I do what I actually want to do? I know it's a silly example, but I was thinking it's supposed to be this way, and that's culture, right? That's not Kirsten. That was culture. That wasn't my desire. But I think it's easier for me to have that discernment because I've lived out of the States for 4 years. But there's a lot of shoulds, and it's catching them. Wait, I don't want to do this. Wait, I don't like this. Wait, I never liked yoga. Why am I here? Actually, I think that every class that I do like yoga. So there's a few exceptions. Why did I come? But being
it is.
I'm here, but then when you're done, you're like, thank God.
It's a spiritual experience. Transformation. One thing that is really powerful that I've been doing every couple of months is journaling. And the question I write at the top of my journaling is, where am I not telling myself the truth? And then I'm not telling myself, and I write categories: business, finances, relationships, happiness, this. Where am I doing my believing my highlight reel? Where am I actually not telling myself the truth? And that's been pretty profound for me.
do you know that? How do you know?
Because I write that down, and the questions we ask ourselves are very powerful. So then I start to contemplate it. Like, am I really actually okay with my life right now? And then I look through different areas, and I pause, and I'm either looking at trees or I'm journaling or whatever it is. Slow down my thoughts, and I really is this relationship, this friendship that I'm in, like, am I showing up the way that I want to? Do I actually like this person that I'm in a friendship? Am I done with it? Is this friendship toxic for me? Like, so really looking at, am I clinging to something because I think I'm supposed to, or I should, or is like, what's the truth here? No, I actually want something. No, I actually don't want to go to Mount Rushmore. So,
do you feel that that was an answer to your question? I thought that was a really good question.
Yeah, and then sort of how do you know what to? How do you know what you're missing if you don't know what it is? If you know what I mean. So you write a journal, but how do you know what you need to sort of address if you don't know what it is that you're missing? That was.
So there's a book. Have you heard of The Artist's Way? There's something in this book called The Artist's Way where it's morning pages, where you write down three pages every morning, just without stopping. You just keep writing. And so there are ways that we can tap into the subconscious mind. And so journaling is a great one for that. Meditation, being in nature too. Asking powerful questions like, how could I improve? How could I show up better at work? How can I improve this at work? So asking questions that help get through. I know with denial it's tricky. Like, I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol, and I did. Like, I get denial is very real. I understand that there's some stuff we cannot see, or it's even not time for us to see some stuff. Like, when I had the anxiety disorders, there's no way that I could have even had any sort of bandwidth to get into my shame. I needed to deal with the fact that, like, I was having a panic attack and calm myself down. I couldn't go into, like, that I felt unlovable, right, and not good enough. So I think the truth gets more revealed over our journey. I don't know if everyone has the same experience, but that's for me. It's if I keep looking at where am I not telling myself the truth, and I pause and I consider it, sometimes that gives space for the answers to come. It's not like my mind is thinking it through. It's like I give it space for it to come. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
But I really like that, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, but when we're talking about numbing and stuff before, so one of my biggest numbing thing was to be busy, right? And when I was busy, I felt important, and like I was at everybody's party, and if there wasn't a party, I'll fix the party so that I always had something to do. The problem with that for me was that I was what do you call it? The word, I don't know the word, but it was a way for me to keep away from myself, really, right? I didn't see it as that because I saw my self-importance of being everywhere and doing everything and woohoo, here I come. And but it stopped me from really checking in. And you're saying pausing, right? Whatever. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but we had to coach each other a lot in our coaching school. And one of our friends, she said to me, Monica, your homework is to go and sit under a tree for 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, no problem. I'll do that. I'm good. I'm going to do that. And I remember after 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, you cannot do anything, not read, not write anything. Just sit and be 20 minutes. 10 minutes. Then I realized, wow, I can't be for 20 minutes and do nothing. Then so it was, for me, was the consciousness of knowing that busyness, I was numbing with busyness. You get that word, right? Yeah. And so to just get the time then to check in. I didn't have time to check in and pause, sort of, at that time. And I gave myself that time. So for me, that was part of the journey. I don't know if that's, but yeah.
There's also something, I think it's called the raphe nucleus, a part of the brain, where if you buy a blue truck, suddenly you see blue trucks everywhere, and it's not that everyone else suddenly got a blue truck, it's that now you see them, right? Or maybe you're pregnant and then you see strollers, or whatever it is. Suddenly something's in your environment because it's on your mind, and what happens is most of the stuff is being filtered out, right? And then we lock on what we're focused on. And so if you ask a question to yourself, and it's contemplation, right? So where am I not telling myself the truth? And every morning you read that, and then you go through your day, you're brain is going to let you know where you're not telling yourself the truth. Actually, I don't like this coworker who is always slighting me, but I smile and I still have lunch with them. Actually, this is a lie. So I think that it's not so like A plus B equals, or 1 plus 2 equals 3 kind of a thing. But I think that we can, if we start asking questions, the answers start to come. And I don't know how to explain that mystery. I actually talked to trees in Bali, and a lot of answers came. That's how I understand the journey of the heart, is because I asked all these questions to the trees, and whether they were answering or whether my wisdom was answering, or I don't know how, but wisdom was revealed to me. And all my questions were answered about love and the heart through these trees. All the questions, no, I don't know if you'd have the same answers, but like my questions were answered. So I think there's something to that. It's just starting the journey and using our intuition to guide us.
Great. Yeah, so you have some exercises for us, don't you?
Yes.
We have some fun now. Woo.
Okay, so there are pens and paper right here. So everybody take one piece of paper and a pen.
Yeah, in the back too, there's paper, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all. I don't know. That didn't work anymore. Oh, I got the pens. One moment, please. You're welcome.
And so I told all you lovely people that the name of my TED Talk and the big message that I really have for the world is The Secret That Almost Killed Me. And like Brene Brown says that shame needs 3 things to live: secrecy, silence, and judgment. And so the way that we get free from shame is we break the silence. And so the most powerful thing, like I really thought long and hard, probably talking to trees, about what are the most profound transformations I've been through, because I've been through a lot of transformative experiences. I've changed tremendously from 10 years ago. And one of the things that was the most powerful for me ever was telling someone the things I was never going to tell, ever. In the recovery community, we call them to take it to the graves, because we'd rather die with a secret in us than share it. So I'm going to invite you to write down something on the piece of paper that either it's a secret that you've never told anybody, something you feel shame around. One of mine, I told you, was that I was sexually abused in childhood. And another one that I didn't talk about for a long time is that I went to rehab. I had shame around that. I was okay to say I'm sober, then you think it's because I do yoga, but like, right? No, I almost actually died from alcohol. So I had some secrets that I was carrying inside, and it takes a lot of energy to lock them inside our heart. And so the part of getting free is breaking your silence. So I'm going to invite you to write down something that you feel shame around.
And this little yellow.
You want a bigger sheet?
It's gonna remain anonymous.
Okay.
I'm gonna invite you guys to be courageous and write it down, and then I'm gonna gather them in here. And this can either go in the garbage can, we'll do, or I'm gonna pick in and read like 5 of them out loud. And part of that, my intention with that was so we could see we're not alone.
Do you want these to be something that we've never talked about, or just
If
in
you have
general?
something inside your heart you've never shared with anybody, now would be a great time to get free. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, well, it's not going to feel comfortable. If my invitation to anybody is to share what's inside them, whether it's with a partner, a therapist, someone that you trust, to get it out, because I think that's the stuff that keeps us really. There's another phrase we have in the recovery community: "You're as sick as your secrets." So getting your shame out, and even writing it down, even if nobody ever sees it, writing it out gets it out of your body and into the physical world. It's how we start to get free. That's how I've got tremendous freedom out of that, through telling other people what I'm the most ashamed of. And now I can tell anybody anyway, because it's no longer, it doesn't own me anymore. Because the people always say me too.
Do you want me to do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry. No, it's okay. I'll brag quietly. I'll give you the credit. Oh, yes.
take this here. Thank you. There.
I'm like, don't love me. This is a safe place where no one's
Oh, I love your shirt.
Sorry?
I love your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, anyone else has one for me?
What was the name of your
The secret that almost killed me.
What if you can't take it home? Oh.
Yeah, yeah, you can take it home. It's not. Ted hasn't put it online yet, so it's not. But
Okay, but I can keep looking.
I keep looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you still writing yours?
Yeah, add me on Facebook after.
No, you put yours
yeah,
in there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come up when we're done. Add me on
Okay,
Facebook. Yeah.
perfect.
Anyone else that wants to?
How long ago did you do it?
Power of vulnerability.
I'm sorry.
What is the title of your talk today?
The secret that almost killed me. I thought that if I put it, girl who recovered from early childhood sexual abuse, nobody would click on that. I wouldn't click on that. I mean, I might. Like, you're
Depends on the day.
No. The weirdest thing is that title came to me. I wrote it down, and this guy came up behind me at the cafe. I have headsets, and he taps on my shoulder. I was like, huh? Hey, who's so aggressive at the cafe? I don't know you. And I go back, and I just wrote it down. I'm kind of in an emotion, I'm like, oh God. And he's tapping me again, like really aggressively. I'm like, oh. And as I take out the headset, I was like, what? And it's the first thing I see is his shirt says Hakuna Matata, which is like one of my favorite songs. And I had like a teacher in India tell me I needed to blast it and dance every day to it to like work on having more joy in my life, and I did. So anyway, Hakuna Matata tapped on my shoulder, and he's like, what are you writing? And I was like, no, I don't think I know you. And he's like, whatever that is, I want to know more. And he pointed down, the secret that almost killed me. I was like, okay, Hakuna Matata, that's it, and we picked the title. We're not talking about what it really is. Trick 'em, right,
Here, you have a little bag, the shame bag.
Did everybody get a chance to write something down or turn it in or to consider what it's like to not participate?
Are you shaming us?
Yeah.
No. To be with whatever experience you're having right now. There's no right and wrong in anything. It's all a judgment, right? There's no right or wrong. Does anybody want me to read a couple of these? Do you guys want me to read a couple of these so we can get an idea of what it is that people have been living with? Yeah? Okay. Let's close our eyes and take 3 deep breaths. So close your eyes, uncross your legs if they're crossed.
What's the right dress?
However, keep them crossed. My eyes are closed.
You sure?
Yeah.
Take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through your mouth. Let's inhale through the nose. Now let's exhale through the nose. Take another deep inhale. And exhale. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. I have very little patience with my kids. I don't have a great sexual relationship with my husband. Something I'm ashamed of, being patient with my kids. feel ashamed that I couldn't save my siblings from experiencing the same trauma I did. It's a big me too for me. I was never happy making people feel happy. Public speaking in English. I avoid my mom sometimes. I'm not afraid of being able, of the pain to handle their death. So when we're in the stillness right now, I just want to invite, if anybody feels like they just want to say one word, like if your heart's beating and there's a word that comes to your mind, just say the word out loud. We can have a couple people just say a word.
Acceptance. Love.
Understanding.
Truth.
Peace.
Courage.
Humanity. Thank you. You guys are brave. This is a really brave thing to do or to consider doing. And I think the most transformative, well, aside from getting sober, but the most transformative thing I've done in personal development is telling somebody all my secrets when they were really still close to the break in my heart. And I think that's the path to freedom, is to getting it out, not harboring it inside us. So if there's anything inside you, I guess that would be the message of this talk. Consider sharing your secret with somebody, and somebody who's empathetic and who's not going to give you advice on it, right? Trust your intuition on if this is the right person to tell or not. We tell the wrong person can be traumatizing. I've been not believed by people that really needed to believe me at ages where I really needed to be believed. But what did that do? That put some fire in my soul to come and share a message with people, because I know how important it is. So we all have purposes, we all have callings, we all have shame, we all have fear. And it's just one day at a time, how are we going to choose to show up? Are we going to choose to walk through the fear and be who we want to be, or are we going to let the fear win? But every day we can choose to have a little more courage, even if it's just to say hi to the person in front of us in line at the cafe or whatever, if we feel called to. I want a round of applause for everybody, because I think that was really great.
So I actually want to open up for questions now. If you have any questions.
Oh, really quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's time for that thing. So you may open your cards now.
Right.
I have a surprise for you, a present for you, because I wanted to do 2 exercises tonight, and I didn't have enough time. So I thought the shame one's the most important, because my message really is to break free from your shame. But I also have a really cool anxiety, because I had all the anxiety disorders, and now I don't, an anxiety example that I wanted to do with you, but I didn't have time. So instead, I'm giving you guys all, gifting you all with an anxiety course I have online. It's a digital course of videos and audios called Digital Anxiety Pill. And I gave you guys the URL for my website. I put it up there free for you guys. It's at, my website's richerexperiences.com/Monica. So when you go there, if you just put in your email address, it'll automatically send you everything. So it's yours. And I think that transforming your relationship with fear would be a beautiful thing. So if you want it, it's there. Yeah. And if not, and then also, I know I may have just stirred the pot a little bit for you. I mean, I hope I did. I hope you had a little bit of a crack tonight. And I'm giving you all, and I've never done this before, I'm giving you all my phone number. If you want to call me, I'm available to talk, because you're friends of Monica's, and she's one of my friends. So you guys have it there. I know it's weird to reach out to strangers, but I think we're a little closer now. So you have my number and you have the course. And that was what you were waiting
Yeah.
for.
Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have so much time, but I would like to open up just if you have any questions. Yes.
We would like to hear of some of your experiences while you were in India.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Well, at 6 months sober, I went to Mysore, India for a month, and I studied Ashtanga there. And that's actually where I found my first guru who taught me how to meditate. And he taught me transcendental meditation. I met a lot of teachers there, and it was beautiful. And I remember like meditating for the first time ever, and I was like, my head's spinning. What does that mean? He's like, too much activity. And I needed, like, if anyone's a beginner meditator, I needed that mantra to lock my mind on. I couldn't just focus on my breath. I couldn't sit still for 2 minutes. There was way too much. The addictive thinking, the obsessively thinking was blocking me from feeling. And so I needed to lock. I couldn't focus on my breath. My rule at first was I just can't stand up. I'll just sit even if my eyes open. You know, and the second time I went to India was 3 years ago. I went to Osho for 2 months, another meditation center where I meditated for 2 months, basically. So I went from not being able to do it for 2 minutes to doing it for 2 months on purpose, seeking it.
You went to Pune.
Yeah. Where are you?
Yeah, we are from India.
Cool. Yeah, I want to go again. Just tell me where to go after. I'll take some feedback and then throw it through the channel.
Sure. You say trees in Bali were recording for you.
Yeah.
You had trees around in US or something.
Yeah.
You didn't have trees.
If I want to make up why it happened in Bali, well, first of all, it is very much a vortex in Ubud, Bali. I mean, it's like the energy there is really intense. There's something special there. Like Mount Shasta, certain areas of the world, the energy is different. I think if I'm going to make up a story about why I think it happened there, is I needed to be away from my culture, my family, in order to crack open into my trauma and heal.
And same thing you would tell about Bali. What was like your experience? Like in India, you had found something. Same thing about Bali. You have been to those pyramids and known what all happened in Bali.
What happened in Bali?
Bali. What was like your 3 years experience in Bali?
The first year I didn't work at all, but that was right after I had surgery on my arm. I actually physically wasn't able to work on a laptop. So my question when I went there was, why am I always doing? So who am I without achieving was my real curiosity, and my intention was to let go. I knew I was constantly running in my life because as soon as I hurt my arm, I couldn't do yoga every night after work. So what did I do? Like a good not feeler. I started running. I ran my first mile ever, and then the next week I did 2 miles and 3 miles, then a 5K, and then I did a half marathon. I was like, woo, we're going, went to Hawaii, joined a running team, and then I hurt my hip. And I was like, well, so what is someone who doesn't want to do anything do? I was like, well, I'll start marathon meditating. I started going to Vipassanas. And that's when I realized that I always had to do something because I could never just be with myself. Until the world was like, no working, no running, no yoga. Be with yourself.
One more question.
Yeah, Monica knows that I have the tendency to ask these devil's advocate questions. So I ponder the role of perfectionist in your story. Is it this spiritual journey, Hollywood happy end story? That's it. This is the place? Or do you have the tendency to go back to the perfectionist? Because what I hear listening, and it's wonderful, I love your story and your courage and the whole changes. But I also think that this being Miss Perfect really could have helped you in rewiring 180 degrees, because you did it like full throttle, right? To the other side. And then I hear when you say, okay, I don't leave the house without meditating. I would have expected you to say, okay, if I want, I meditate. If I don't want, I don't give a F, right? So is this still part of you? And maybe it still helps being perfect or having this perfectionist in you.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
that's a good question.
Well, I generally also shower before I leave the house and eat, right? So it's just a part of my routine. But there are things that I don't do perfectly. I don't always journal in the morning, but I want to. right? So there are things that I don't do perfectly in the morning, but I definitely brush my teeth before I leave the house, like every time, and meditate. And it's just how I like to live. I don't view that as perfectionism, because when the goal with perfectionism was to prove that I'm lovable, that I'm worthy of love, to do something to get something. I'm not trying to get anything now. I have my own love, which means I can give love. So I'm not doing something to, I'm not putting on a show, where I used to very much be putting on a show.
So we actually do not have more time. I wish we had more time for more questions. I know usually I get flowers, right? But I thought maybe that would be hard in your van, traveling to Nashville, Graceland, whatever. So I wanted to say thank you so much for making the time, for coming here, for your presence. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you all you for coming.